We make this a daily lifestyle change and we're looking at our habits and becoming aware of what our habits are doing. Are they serving us well? Are they not? Then what we can do is take lasting change. Hello and welcome back. Now, just before we get started with this episode, if you're watching this on the Total Somatics YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and press the notification bell. So whenever I release an episode, you find out very quickly. Now, I wanted to share a little bit of an extract with you today because recently I was invited to speak at an online summit. And what they wanted me to talk about was our habits and how that translates into our health and well-being. So I really want us to consider with this extract that I'm going to share with you how we can learn to be a circuit breaker in the case of our unhealthy habits and what we can do to create new healthy habits, which will have that ripple effect for our overall health and well-being, our current and our future self. So I'd love you to get yourself settled with a nice cup of tea, put your feet up and enjoy the next few minutes, because you're going to see I've merged two separate sections together. So when the person was interviewing me, what we've done is we've butted them together so you can see how the discussion develops. So enjoy. Yeah, so when we consider with our habits, let's consider for a moment that almost everything we do, approximately 95% of our actions and our behavior, are subconscious, which means they're not under our conscious control. And so the reason for this is that our brain is incredibly amazing. It has this very energy efficient way of working, and it also possesses the most intricate of wiring systems. And so these wires are known as synapses. And really, they are like pathways. So the more that we walk a pathway, if we just walk in an average pathway, we know that that gets really well worn. And it's the same with our wiring in our brain. Like a pathway, the more that we practice a movement or a posture or a thought belief system or the way that we breathe, whatever it is, or the way that we speak, is it empowering or is it disempowering? All of those things. If it's a well-worn path and maybe not serving us well as a habit would be, then that becomes deeply embedded, a bit like a really well-worn pathway in the garden. It's the same with our brain. It becomes a very well-worn wiring system or pathway or synapse. And so that's why I really want to share this with you, because this is where we want to get very careful or very sensitive or alert to what we're doing on a daily basis. And that's really what Total Somatics really focuses on, because if we practice something on a regular basis, it starts to become a habit. And then when it becomes a habit, it starts to become subconscious, which means it's no longer under our conscious control or our awareness. It just becomes part of some of that 95% that's operating throughout our day. So unless our attention is brought to the way that we stand, the way that we breathe, the thoughts that we have, the way that we speak, what we consume, it might be food, it could be media, material, all sorts of things. Until we draw attention to that and have an internal awareness to knowing how that's affecting us, until we're heightened to that, we are just a collection of habits. And in the large majority of cases, a huge percentage of those habits are not serving us well. And so that's why within Total Somatics, I'm teaching us how we can rewire the synapses in our brain by addressing people's movements, their posture, their breathing state, the state of their nervous system as a whole, and how they can create changes to reduce their pain, to improve their mobility, improve their posture. And doing this, I do it with very specific movement practices, as well as bringing in mindset and mindfulness approaches. And the key thing is incorporating this into our daily life. Because as I stand here today, I'm in one of the clinic rooms here in my wellbeing centre in Adelaide in South Australia. And I had a business in the UK, started in 2001 in clinical practice. And before that, I worked in the National Health Service in neurophysiology. So I've always had that brain background. But working in clinical practice since 2001, what I've brought together with Total Somatics is my observation over the clinical practice over these years. And that is that we need to address the movement the mindset, and the mindfulness. We need to incorporate those, but bring them into our daily lives. Because sometimes people will pick up a movement practice or a breathing technique and do it for a few minutes or an hour, and then they go back to their daily activities and the things that were triggering them, or their default postures or movement or breathing. However, if we make this a daily lifestyle change and we're looking at our habits and becoming aware of what our habits are doing, are they serving us well? Are they not? Then what we can do is take lasting changes. And that's really what I do is I teach people how to self-assess, how to self-regulate their nervous system and identify where those poor patterns or those poor habits are, what they're beginning to do, and can we override them for healthy habits? Because again, from time to time through stress and other things, those hardwired, those worn pathways can default back to some old habits that could be from years ago, from conditioning. So we're constantly wanting to work at rewiring, being our own electrician in our brain and rewiring that way. And so that's why in Total Somatics, I cover total somatic movement, mindset, and mindfulness. And that is to help regulate and recalibrate our nervous system. Because unless we target and we get to the software, which is our brain, the way it talks to our body, how it patterns tension, how it communicates throughout the day, unless we target the software and regulate our nervous system, it will continue to have a knock-on effect to all the other systems in our body. Well, yeah, because there is a specific process that I use to correct postural habits, and it's called pandiculation. It's a pretty groovy, cool word, isn't it? Pandiculation. And I also use clinical somatic movement as well. So, what that actually starts to do is change the way your brain talks to your muscles. Because of habits and rituals and behavior, your muscles will start to be sculpted and molded and shaped and tightened to what we do on a regular basis. So, when we do pandiculation, it actually resets the way that your brain talks to your muscles. And I really want to share something very exciting with you. And very recently, my TEDx talk was released. So if you want to find out more about pandiculation, you can do. If you go to the YouTube channel and put in the search bar TEDx Heidi Hadley, and then up will come my talk, and it's about 14 minutes and it's on pandiculation. So in that, you will start to see the weaving in of pandiculation, what we're talking about today with habits and also with posture. So do check that out. So TEDx Heidi Hadley in the search bar for YouTube. And do leave your comments or thumbs up, or share with people that it will resonate with. But yeah, so because of that reason, because of using pandiculation and clinical somatic movement, what that will do is it will start to correct the habits and the rituals and the stress that builds up in our system over the time. Because remember, we are a product of the repeated actions that we do. And it does mold and sculpt us. So you'll see some people with very rounded shoulders, their tailbone tucks up and under, so they deal with things like tight hip flexors. They have a lot of gut issues, poor breathing, it's poor quality of breathing, a lot of neck pain. Other people, you'll find they have a big sway lower back, their belly may protrude, they have very stiff upper back, and they're quite heavy footed through their feet. And then there are some people that load all their pressure and their tightness through one side of the body. So they end up with one-sided issues. So if you check out my TEDx talk, you'll see I go into that into greater detail. But because of our habits and our rituals, we are sculpted and molded. So no amount of stretching is going to change the way that your brain is talking to your muscles, because stretching doesn't reach a brain level. It doesn't change the way that the software or our brain is translating and communicating to our muscles. So we need to be a circuit breaker. We need to break those habits. And that's what pandiculation does. And you'll see in my TED talk that that's what animals do. They don't stretch, they pandiculate. So when you watch a dog or a cat and they do that little tremble, and then they lengthen their muscles to the end of that natural range of movement before it turns into a stretch, and then they rest or they go off and trot around the garden or whatever they want to do. That is a sensory motor reset. They're resetting the sensory and motor parts of their brains, the parts of the brains that allow us to sense and feel and create movement. So it is an overall software reset. that jump starts to break the habits. It breaks that wiring that we've created. And then with pandiculation, we can bring in efficient muscle movement and memory. So we can create that new wiring. And so that's the thing is we actually create a lot of subconscious postures because of the stressed lifestyle and the habits we live in. So again, thinking back to the old days with like the saber-toothed tiger and the cave person, when when that cave person was in danger because that saber-toothed tiger was running towards them, their brain would create subconscious, so not under our conscious control, subconscious life-saving reflex postures. So they would either curl up into a ball around their shoulders, tailbone tucks under, hide behind that rock so that saber-toothed tiger runs by, or it may create mobilization. So it tightens muscles through the back of their body, lets them load onto the back of their heels, ready to fight or to flee. And so that fight, flight, freeze, fawn response mode is exactly the same as what we have today. The difference is we don't have saber-toothed tigers chasing us. We just have deadlines and stress, family dynamics, all sorts of things. And unlike the old days, we have one stress and another stress and another stress. And all of these, with our habits, start to change the tension and tone in our body. So before we know it, we've been living for decades with rounded shoulders, tail tucked up and under, rolling in on the inside of our feet. Or we may be more that we've had lower back pain, herniated discs, plantar fasciitis, hamstring issues, because we're more in that primed, ready to flee or fight, where we're loading more weight and tension through the back of our body. So can you see from emotional aspects, physiological changes happen. And when we keep living like that, that becomes our habitual posture, becomes habitual behavior. Because the thing that we've got to consider here is if we're holding these stress postures all the time from our emotional, being triggered emotionally, from our habits, from all sorts of lifestyle factors, our nervous system doesn't know the difference between perceived and actual danger. So if we continue to habitually hold these postures as if we're freezing or feigning death, or we are fighting and fleeing, it's exhausting for our muscles to hold that tight and tense all the time. But it's also releasing chemical messengers known as hormones that are flooding our system and keeping us in high alert. So it's increasing things like cortisol. So it's increasing our inflammation in our body. And if we live with high levels of inflammation, the cortisol will bathe the sensory nerves of our body, and we can end up with like fibromyalgia and other inflammatory issues such as that. So that's why managing our emotions, noticing our posture, noticing our habits and our rituals, all of this weaves together. And that's why with Total Somatics, can you see now why I bring in the movement, the mindset, and the mindfulness? Because we need to manage these chemical messengers or these hormones. We don't want them to be controlling us. We want to be able to regulate our nervous system, have the dopamine, the happy hormones being created from natural movement rather than having sugar or other things to create that stimulant. Because we know sugar, again, is another factor that increases inflammation. So can you see how I weave all of this in, and it becomes very much a lifestyle factor? Because we want to be able to reassess, recalibrate throughout our day. So that's the thing, living in a highly stressed or in a very shut down mode, either way, is having long-term issues towards our health. So we need to take care of our future, our current and our future health by incorporating this total somatic movement mindset and mindfulness. Because remember, unless we change these things, we are just a collection of patterns and habits that have come about, or patterns and rituals really, from habits that aren't always serving us well. So again, just considering how we can be a circuit breaker, how we can create these new wiring systems, and how we can become very attentive to noticing how our emotional and physiological health and neurophysiology as well, how everything comes together. We can't separate this work. So I'm really glad I could share that episode with you. So I'd really love to hear your takeaway points there. So please, if you're watching this on the Total Somatics YouTube channel, please share your comments below here. If you want to, you can also give me a thumbs up if this has really resonated with you. And please, as always, if there's points in this episode today, please share it with those that you know it'll also resonate with too. So I've got a lot of really exciting things happening very, very soon. And so what I just want to encourage you to do is stay connected with me, because in the next few weeks, I'm going to share a very special announcement. And that announcement will only be for a short period of time. So yeah, listen out. There's a couple of episodes coming up soon. And so just stay connected. And that's why I'm encouraging you, if you're not subscribed to my episodes, please do, because you will get notified quickly. And also, if you're not already, please subscribe to my weekly blogs, because I will also announce that very special, it's only a short period of time, but a very special announcement. And I have even more exciting things that I'll share with you at the start of the next episode. So until then, all my love, all my very best wishes. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and also forward this on to somebody you know will benefit. To learn more about pain relief, plus how to improve your health and well-being, go to totalsomatics.com. Until next time, take care.